Ever since TikTok hit the market and blew apart the social media world a few years ago, everybody has seen huge value in this easy to flip through, easy to watch video content, which means that they all want in, which means that from Instagram and YouTube to small platforms you've never even heard of before, everybody is making this type of content platform and they want you to be a part of it, which leaves you with a huge decision. Where should you be focusing your efforts? This is a really hard thing to figure out because there are so many. So what I'm gonna do for you today is I'm gonna cover the top 5 because I cannot cover them all. And I'm gonna break them down by first giving you an idea of what they're like and how they're different from each other. And then we're gonna rank them based on how much you should trust them, monthly active users, growth velocity, user variety, and reach and engagement. My name's Trent Kennelly, I'm a marketing strategist, and on this channel, I talk about all the things that you can do to improve your business through marketing, sales, and analytics. So that sounds good to you and you're excited, make sure that you like this video, comment, and let me know what your experience has been with some or any of these platforms really. Subscribe to this channel if you're into it, and let's get started. All right, so let's first give an overview of each of these companies, and we'll start with TikTok. TikTok is obviously the reason for the revolution, and it evolved from Musical.ly, which was another app that was more based on people singing along to music, but all that really did was form the basis for TikTok, which is a much wider version with a lot more possibilities. It's obviously wildly popular and has led everyone else to scramble to catch up. But it's also very controversial because of a lot of data concerns. Now, there are data concerns with a lot of these, but TikToks are particularly interesting because this is originally a Chinese company. There is a Chinese version of this app that was the original version, and the company that owns TikTok is called ByteDance. ByteDance has very close ties to the Chinese government and is not shy about sharing data with the Chinese government, which in many cases is just a requirement of doing business in China. So what they've done to try and fix this in the West and kind of distance themselves from China is get a lot of their shares to be purchased by big companies in the US like Walmart and Microsoft. But there's really nothing that's indicating that China isn't still connected, even though they say it's no longer connected, even though they say their headquarters are in the US, there's not a lot that really indicates that we should totally trust them with our data. YouTube Shorts. So YouTube Shorts are housed on YouTube. YouTube is the most established video platform. It's been around for a long time. You're watching me here, so you know that it exists. And in the past, it's kind of structured things a little bit differently. So whereas a lot of platforms, no matter how many followers you can have stories. That would be like an Instagram or Facebook. You have to have at least 10,000 subscribers to do stories on YouTube. You can do community posts in YouTube at 1,000 subs. That would be like when you're writing text posts, etc. But the difference here is that for Shorts, you can do that if you're anybody. So that's pretty revolutionary in that way. If you have a regular YouTube channel, all you need is to open it up and you can start doing Shorts, which makes the competition instantly higher because you already have 2 billion people on the platform or something like that. And all of those people have the opportunity to make Shorts, so they're going to be able to do that very quickly. Now, as far as data privacy is concerned, just like with TikTok, there are some concerns, though they're a bit different. This isn't related to the Chinese government or anything, but it is related to Google, who owns YouTube, not really being that great with your data, with letting your data leak or anything like that. So it's not as bad as TikTok, but it's also not something that we should really honor as a very upstanding citizen in the data protection realm. Next is Instagram Reels. So this is obviously a social media platform with image and video hosting, IGTV, stories, all that sort of stuff. And so a reel is a natural fit with this. It's just another way of providing video content in another form, in another fashion. There's a huge advantage here, or disadvantage, depending on how you look at it, because from the disadvantage side, everybody has the ability to make all of these reels all the time. So you've got a huge number of users that could potentially just flood the reels feed and make it impossible for you to be visible. On the other hand, there aren't a lot of people making reels right now, so you can make reels, you can potentially reach a higher number of people more easily, and you'll definitely be able to find your market on Instagram if you focus on your reels. Now, as to data and privacy, Instagram's owned by Facebook. Facebook is currently locking horns with Apple over data privacy, and they're making themselves look worse than they already look, which is generally speaking just really bad about data privacy. They are notoriously untrustworthy, and I wouldn't trust them very much with my data because they don't care. They've just never cared. They're never going to care. It's just how they are. So just something to consider with Reels. So next is Triller. So Triller is interesting because they've been around for a while, but they really started hitting the pavement running when TikTok's privacy concerns became bigger news, because Trump a few months ago threatened to take TikTok down completely off of the US app stores because of data concerns. And so what Triller did in response is they started paying big TikTok influencers to move over to Triller and to make announcements on TikTok that they were doing that. So really what's happening here is they're an exact replica of TikTok, except that they're trying to replace TikTok in the event that TikTok gets knocked off of the app stores. Now, at this point, it doesn't look like that's gonna happen, so Triller is just another competitor. But what's interesting here is because they approached it from the perspective of replacing TikTok, they've focused really hard on privacy and data concerns to make sure that they don't also go the way of TikTok. So they're a little bit more trustworthy. So the last one is Dubsmash. So honestly, I never even heard of Dubsmash before about a week ago when I found out that Reddit purchased Dubsmash, which is interesting because if I look at that platform without knowing that Reddit purchased it, I would say, oh, it's just another replica. It's not worth talking about, just like Zyn isn't really worth talking about, or a bunch of the others, because they're so low on the totem pole, nobody even notices them. But Reddit purchasing them adds a lot of legitimacy to them, because even though they haven't been able to take advantage of that cash infusion now, they will be able to, and there might be some shifting. So I'm not gonna be able to predict what that looks like for them, but what I will do is I'll take a look at where they are now and I'll put them on that ranking just so that we can keep an eye on them going forward. From a data privacy perspective, there isn't a lot to say here. Reddit hasn't had a whole lot of activity here. They've had their issues in the past, but data privacy has not been one of those forefront issues for Reddit. So I don't really think that there are a lot of trust issues here. So seeing that I basically talked about trust in all 5 of those profiles, let's just go ahead and rank trust real quick. So how much can you trust each of these platforms? Here's how they rank. TikTok comes in 5th, Reels comes in 4th, Shorts comes in 3rd, Dubsmash comes in 2nd because it's really kind of hard to say, and Triller, because they're focusing on that trust, comes in 1st place here. So monthly active users. What is a monthly active user? It's as it sounds. It's the number of active users on a monthly basis, because downloads are not a reliable indicator for most apps. 90% of the time, people are gonna look at your app once and they're never gonna look at it again. So why do we as content creators care about monthly active users? Because the whole point is to grow your audience, right? If your audience is growing, then you're gonna be able to grow your business and earn more money. The more people are active on the platform, the more likely you're gonna be able to access that audience and get more money out of them. All right, so let's go rate all 5 of these. Dubsmash comes in 5th place. Now, I couldn't find any actual monthly active user numbers for Dubsmash because it's such a small platform, but I do know that they claim 1 billion monthly video views. Now, if we compare that to TikTok, that's getting 1 billion a day, and we know, as I'm gonna tell you in a minute, that TikTok gets 850 million monthly active users, then we can kind of do a comparison assuming 1-to-1 here. So if we were to do a 1-to-1 comparison, we would get at monthly active users for Dubsmash at around 26 million. Triller comes in 4th place with what they say is 65 million monthly active users, though this is a hotly disputed number. A lot of people think that they're over-reporting this number by more than 250%. And if that's true, it would put their actual number at around 28 million. So I guess what I'm saying is trust them, but don't trust them. Coming in 3rd is TikTok at 850 million monthly active users. Reels comes in 2nd at 1 billion, though I do want to say that's a little bit of a misnomer because it's not a dedicated platform like the ones I've already mentioned, because it includes all of Instagram. So that's stories, and that's the post grid, and that's IGTV. All of those different things are involved in this 1 billion. So it's not necessarily fair to say that that's only for Reels, but still everybody who's on the platform is most likely going to be using Reels. So it's somewhat fair to say that there's around 1 billion, maybe just slightly less, that have access to and are using Reels. And then Shorts comes in 1st place with 2 billion, though again, because this is a YouTube function, it's not totally accurate, not totally honest to say that, but I'm still gonna put it in 1st because that platform is so huge and YouTube in general has 2 billion monthly active users that I think it's somewhat fair to say that this one is gonna be the leader at a certain point. Next is growth velocity. So we want to see not just how many users there are, but whether they're going in the right direction. Are you growing? Is your app falling or stagnant? This is really important because if they're growing, then your audience has more potential to be growing. So yes, you might get 100 million downloads and 90 million of those downloads delete or never use it again, but you still have 10 million new followers or new users on the app at that point, right? So this is growth. If you're stagnant, if you have very few downloads, or if you're falling, you're not really seeing any downloads, then there's a chance that you could be wasting time on the platform. Now, obviously this is not a one-to-one comparison because TikTok is still pretty young, so their download numbers are still going through the roof, whereas Instagram and YouTube are still seeing steadily high numbers, but you're not gonna see that same spike of downloads that you might with a TikTok. So let's go ahead and go through the ratings. Dubsmash comes in 5th again, only 170,000 downloads across both app stores in November, which was pretty consistent with the months before it. Triller comes in 4th, 1.1 million downloads in November, again, pretty consistent with the months before it. Shorts comes in 3rd. It's a pretty high number of downloads in comparison to the first two at 8 million across both in November. Obviously, this is a big jump from 4th place, but nonetheless, it is much lower than some of the others, as you're gonna see. But also that's because, keep in mind again, YouTube has been around for a very long time, and they've had apps for a very long time. So most of the people who are gonna download it up to this point have probably downloaded it. Reels comes in 2nd because it's the 4th most downloaded app across both stores in 2020. And then TikTok comes in 1st as the most downloaded app across both stores in 2020 by a large margin. I mean, it beat out every other app every month except for, I believe it was March, where Zoom won. Next question is user variety. So here we want to understand whether the platform really does have something for everyone. Can you get dance videos and instructions on chess and marketing videos there? That's good variety. If you're only getting dance videos, only people singing, that's not so good. So let's jump into the rating. Coming in 5th again is Dubsmash. So the short answer here is no variety. Most people here are just copying their TikToks. You're not gonna find any success doing that on any platform because all of them look at metadata and they're all gonna know if you're bringing it over from another platform and they don't like that, okay? The only thing that shows up in the feed otherwise is dance videos. And I've tried to get it over to like a business TikTok style or something like that. You can't get anything that's not entertainment focused. I'm personally not interested in that because I want to be looking at business focused stuff. And I'm not the only person that's going to want to be looking at things that are not just dance videos. I've also found that unless it's entertainment focused, there are barely any hashtags, and any hashtags that do exist are really low in views. So for instance, I searched for e-commerce. I found one hashtag related to e-commerce and it had 73 views. That was the last time I checked. So for a platform that's like 5 years old, I would expect way more in the way of more variety and getting more different types of people onto the platform. Triller comes in 4th because there are some non-entertainment options, but they really don't get any play and you really have a hard time getting them to show up in the feed. They don't cater to you in the same way on Triller as they do on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. And so you'll even see like Gary Vee has a huge account on there, but you're not gonna see a lot of play from his videos because people aren't even finding them in search in the way that they would on some of the other platforms. TikTok comes in 3rd because there's a lot of possibility here, but what I find is that even though there's a huge variety of different content, the users in each type of content, so like business talk or entertainment TikTok or sewing TikTok or whatever, will be very structured and strict in the type of content that they put out. Entertainers are going to be doing the same types of skits over and over. So there's a woman who I think is really funny who always has a toddler with this little hand who's talking all the time, but she tends to use that quite a bit. She's not the only one. Everybody does these talking to each other skits that are more or less the same idea all the time. On business TikTok, you're gonna have all these people talking about free tools or how to blow up quick on any platform and how to make $1 million in a weekend, which if you watch this channel, you know that I don't believe in because it's total garbage. What we'll see is that there is a lot of variety of different types of content, but the content inside those little bubbles is kind of the same thing over and over, I find. Reels comes in 2nd, really by virtue of just being around for a lot longer because it's allowed the platform to grow and have a lot more depth and breadth. Lots of different variety, lots of different bubbles can exist inside of Instagram because it's so old effectively, which allows people to take these distinct messages that they've already developed and these distinct personas and the distinct approach that they have to building content on the platform and just kind of adapt that for video, which makes the variety much broader on Instagram as a result. And then Shorts comes in 1st because really it's along the same lines as Instagram and Reels, but a bit deeper. YouTube has been around for a lot longer than any of the other platforms on this list, and it's been around for such a long time that you can find anything on YouTube, which means that where everyone is going to be trying to get into shorts, it's going to be a lot easier to have that variety and that mix in there, because they're going to take that old content and they're going to repurpose it into YouTube Shorts content, or they're going to create quick content inside their own niche, and there's every niche on YouTube that they'll then mix into shorts, which is going to allow for a much better mix much faster. Last, we're going to look at engagement and reach. So typically you want to know how easy it is to reach other accounts first, because the higher the reach, the more views, more exposure, faster growth, more sales. And in the past, when a platform was just starting out or that was really trying to grow very fast, they would push that reach out to more accounts more easily. The reason for this is that it would increase the likelihood for that engagement, it would keep new content moving, and it would encourage more people to create more content. And with respect to that engagement, you also want that engagement to be very high, because even though that reach is high, it will still eventually choke off if people are not engaged in the content that you are pushing out there, because there's always going to be something better that they can push instead of you. And I have to say, when I ranked these, I was really surprised to see that my expectations were not always met. So let's jump into the rating. Coming in fifth again is Dubsmash. Dubsmash has nothing to lose and everything to gain here, so I would have expected that their reach would be one of the highest, but their reach is almost nothing. It's so low, it's almost non-existent. And their engagement, even on dance videos, is extremely low as well. I couldn't find an actual official number for what their engagement was like, probably because it's so low, but after hours of browsing, I'd put their average at around 2 to 3%, regardless of the size of the account. Though I have to say that finding massive influencers on the site is pretty impossible. You just can't find that on Dubsmash. Triller comes in fourth because even though they claim a much larger size at 65 million, regardless of whether that's true or not, it's still one of the smaller platforms, and I would have expected it to have a pretty large reach, just like I would have expected that for Dubsmash. Instead, I saw about a third of the reach of TikTok. Engagement was almost non-existent. People are super stingy with their likes for some reason on Triller. There's no comments, very, very, very few likes, and it doesn't even seem to matter the size of the account. For instance, Gary Vee again, he has 1 million followers on Triller, but his engagement is pretty poor for his size of account. So they really don't seem to provide a lot of reach, and you don't seem to get a lot of engagement when you're on Triller. I don't know what it is. Shorts comes in third. Now, to be fair, Shorts isn't officially launched. It's in beta in India and nowhere else. And the rest of us, if we want to upload a short, we make a vertical video that's 60 seconds or less. We put hashtag shorts in the title and the description, and we hope that the algorithm picks it up, which it doesn't always do. Sometimes it takes 24 hours, sometimes it just doesn't happen. So you have to kind of hope that your short is gonna get in there. I've certainly had a few that just haven't made it in there for some reason or another. Now, when it comes to reach is insane on YouTube Shorts because it's wild. It's feast or famine. You're either getting a huge number of views, 5, 6, 10x what you normally get, or you're getting nothing at all. And there is no space in between. There is no middle ground at all. Now, it can also be very slow to get your YouTube short going as a short because, like I mentioned, it takes some time for the algorithm to recognize it as a short. And once that's happened, it could be 24 hours past your launch date, which makes the video less interesting because your views are so low, right? And so it's really hard to get that momentum going on shorts because you're not uploading it in the same way. So we'll kind of have to see how this plays out in the future. But for right now, that reach is just so crazy, it's hard to say if it's good or not. And the engagement is, you know, pretty decent, I have to say, because I feel like when I see myself and other accounts, they're getting more likes and engagement that they would on regular videos that are much longer when they're putting them up in shorts. So given the fairly reliable higher engagement rate on shorts and the totally wild and fluctuating reach amount, I kind of have to call this one a wash. That's why that's in third. TikTok comes in second. It is still within TikTok's interest to push content from small creators as much as possible, which means that you're getting more out of them than you do out of many other social sites. But still, if you're super tiny, you're likely not going to get past 200 views before it drops off completely, unless of course your video goes viral. Now that said, your average engagement rate is pretty good on TikTok at 17.2%. Reels comes in first place. Now it's the same algorithm as it's always been, where they'll introduce you to a small audience, and if that audience responds well, then they'll push you to a bigger audience. The difference here is that there are fewer people that are currently using Reels, so it makes winning with them a lot easier. This is very likely to change probably pretty soon, so if you want to build engagement and business with Reels, this is the time. Engagement rate, speaking of that, is lower than TikTok at around 5.1%, but Reels tend to get more comments, so it kind of balances out, putting Reels in that top spot. All right, final score time. So Dubsmash comes in dead last at 5th, Triller comes in 4th, TikTok in 3rd, Shorts in 2nd, and Reels in 1st. Now, the discerning viewer will notice that Reels and Shorts actually tied, but the reason that I put Reels in 1st is because it's more reliable and consistently possible to be viral on Reels as compared to Shorts, which seems to almost be using the exact same ideas as regular YouTube for how it builds virality into that platform. And so I think I've decided that reach is the most important thing, and Reels deserves the top spot as a result of that. So there you go. Now, a little bit of advice before we wrap this thing up. It's true, only 1 or 2 of these is probably gonna win this war, like HD DVD and Blu-ray only had one winner, and that was Blu-ray. But at this point, I would say, what's the harm in being on all of them? Now, you're gonna say, but Trent, you always tell me that you should only be on 2 or 3 platforms at a time. But in this situation, it's a little bit different because the setup is almost exactly the same on all of these. If you can edit and build your video outside of these platforms and then upload the same video to all 5 of them, it's really simple. All you have to do is upload them, have the text and the hashtags ready to go. It's the same thing over and over again, right? And so I can tell you that when I've done this, once I've planned it out appropriately, and I've been ready to go, when I upload them, it takes me less than 10 minutes to go from the first one to the 5th one and just have them all uploaded. Now, I don't know that I'll keep that up because what I see is that the interaction is not happening on Triller and Dubsmash right now, so I don't know that those are really gonna be worth your time. But the others, it could be really worth it to consider being on all 3 of these, contrary to what I usually say, because there's so much engagement on there and because people are looking at the videos on there and interacting with each other. I think you're gonna see that one of those 3 is gonna be the winner. And if you can start to build on all 3 of those, you're gonna be at a better advantage down the road. So just kind of keep that in mind and make that decision for yourself. So there you go. I hope that that was helpful for you to kind of figure out which one of these is going to be the best. I have my opinions, but I'll let you tell me what yours are. Let me know that in the comments, or what your experiences have been to any of these platforms up to this point. Also, make sure that you like this video if you're into it. Subscribe to my channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.